You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. You can follow me on Twitter at Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, on Spotify, on Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts. You will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. No Expert Tuesday today. We have the extra day this week with no opponent because of the bye week that we are going to talk about the Packers on Thursday as well. Lily Zhao will be here tomorrow, and we will still have our live show on Friday. Of course, no live on Sunday because the Packers don't play. So our Monday podcast will just be the Monday podcast as normal. And thanks for everyone who makes their podcast first listen this show. We thank you, Coffee and Locked On Packers. Put it on a t-shirt. Maybe I should put it on a t-shirt. Also, if you are waiting on a Leap t-shirt because you are a Leap founding member, we have those put together, and you should be looking out for an email in the next week or two on how you're going to get those. So just want to let everyone know that. Also, there's a guy who thinks that the intro to the show includes a clip with Devin Funchess. And while I appreciate your passion, that's Joe Buck saying floats it, not Funchess. So I didn't want to use your name and call anybody out, but I just wanted to let you know, because this is the only way I have to get in contact with you. Leaving messages on the Locked On Packers fan hotline. I appreciate the passion, but it had nothing to do with Devin Funchess. Today on the show, I want to do a couple different things because the Packers take this week to self-scout. That's what teams do on the bye week. At least that's what smart teams do. We're going to do a little bit of that today. I also want to put a little bit of a bow on this Packers-Rams game because it was such an important game. I also want to look at a little bit where the Packers stand now in the NFC after everything that has gone on over the last few weeks, as we can sit and just take a breath and step back. And Aaron Rodgers' feet are somewhere not on camera, at least not on camera at a press conference. Billy Turner's feet somewhere not on camera, luckily. And we don't have to worry about the status of David Bakhtiari or Jair Alexander this week because there's no Packer game. So we just get to take a second. We just get to take stock for a moment. And I think for a lot of people, that means enjoying what happened on Sunday. What transpired in an impressive win, a game that was not the single score that the final score says it was. I went back and watched it with a close eye, as I always do. And the thing that struck me that I didn't catch as much live, in part because when you're in the building, it's just harder to identify nuances. Normally I have a chance to be taking notes and doing all kinds of things, looking at replays and taking more notes. But when you're there, I was there with my family as a fan. It's not something that I have done in a very long time, but it was something I was very glad I got to do. It was a great game for that. There were a lot of people who reached out to come say hi, and friends that I got to see there that I have not seen in a long time. So that part of it was really, really cool. It just means that, I didn't have the same level of analytical brain turned on for a lot of it. Going back helps focus, helps the synapses fire a little bit differently. And a couple things stood out that I think are really worth mentioning. We sometimes get bogged down, and I'll speak for myself here, the offense has not looked the same way that it did in 2020. And so by those standards, it's a disappointment, right? Except that we knew always it was going to take some level of regression from a year ago. Rodgers was not going to throw 48 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He was not going to have all-time great EPA per play numbers. It just wasn't going to happen. And not because he wasn't going to have a good season. He's having another very good season. He's still a top 5 MVP candidate over at betonline.ag. But it's not the same. It hasn't looked the same. It's been a little bit more disjointed. In a column that I wrote for The Leap today, I compared it to having a real life Lamborghini that can break down and go 120 miles an hour, but then the next day might break down, and then you fix it, and then it goes 120 again. That's how this offense can feel at times. Now, part of that is injuries. They haven't had their whole group healthy, and we keep saying, okay, well, but, and not that you're making excuses, but I think, again, I'll speak for myself. It's always being compared to last year, but then also, yeah, but think about what they could be. Think about what they could be with David Bakhtiari and with all of the guys with MVS healthy and AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones healthy. That I think that's great and that's important, and do that. Think about that. And look, I've spent a lot of time doing that. But this is the kind of thing where I think we can miss the forest for the trees. When we try and figure out how good the Packers are, frame it in the course of this season. And so when you go back to week 1, the Packers since then are the number 2 offense in EPA per play. They're the number 1 offense in EPA per dropback. So no, they're not destroying teams offensively. They're not hanging 40 on everyone the same way that they did last year. But relative to the rest of the league, where everyone is in this state of flux, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are trying to figure out what their offense looks like in the modern defensive paradigm. All the 2-shell, all of the umbrella coverages that are being out there. Teams are able to stop the run in these light boxes. And guess what? A team like the Packers with a terrific quick game thrower, with a hammer running back, and with an explosive route runner, someone who can get open quickly and create after the catch like Devontae Adams. We saw Randall Cobb, by the way, so far no updates on his status physically. There has been no indication that there is a fear that this is a serious injury, but that doesn't mean that it's not. That doesn't mean that it won't take a month to get back from or 6 weeks. This Packers offense is uniquely suited to the moment. And, the Bills, explosive offense, they want to throw the ball over the yard. They're not consistent in the same way that Green Bay has been consistent this season. And, Dallas, they've had some injuries, no Amari Cooper and no CeeDee Lamb. Okay, but then you get some of those guys out there and it doesn't seem to matter. There's still weeks where it's like, well, what's really going on? And it is in some ways it is hard to square. San Francisco, top 5 DVOA offense. So there is, I think, this idea that if they're not what they were last year, that they're not good relative to their peers this year. And last year has nothing to do with this year. It has nothing to do with this year. So yes, we are colored, our opinions, my opinions are colored by what we saw last year. But what we saw on Sunday was a performance by an offense that has so many counters, so many punches and counter punches. And the counter punch is part of the point, but they also have good punch plays. You throw the punch to set up the counter punch, but you also just need to land some punches. And so they were able to score on a Texas route, little option from Randall Cobb on a little angle route from the backfield, and with AJ Dillon. So you've got a 190-pound slot receiver in the backfield running a running back route, and then you've got a 250-pound behemoth running a running back route, and they score on both of them. You see the fake RPO slant. That's the play off the play. The versatility, the number of guys that contributed to this offense humming. It was Devontae Adams. It was Randall Cobb. It was A.J. Dillon. It was Aaron Jones. You're able to get all of these pieces to coalesce together. And Aaron Rodgers said this after the game. He forgot that it was Josh Nijman out there, that it was John Runyon Jr. out there. And guess what? He also forgot that it was Aaron Donald out there and Von Miller out there and Leonard Floyd out there. Those guys, I made the joke on yesterday's show, but it's not really a joke. Did those guys play? Are we sure? Did they impact the game? My background is back, but it's the same reaction. Where were they? This Packers team, I think they found something offensively with what they can be in this. Okay, it's dink, it's dink, it's dink, it's home run. And they can be effective enough and efficient enough in those underneath plays because Rodgers is so accurate underneath. And because Devontae is so good at getting open quickly and Randall Cobb is so difficult as a cover in the open field. And Matt LaFleur is such an adept play caller that, and I've been saying this all season, and it still sort of boggles my mind. Aaron Rodgers, after week one, said, we're going to have the two shell thing figured out in a week. And in a week, they did. Scored 34 points in week 2. Now, the offense hasn't been, fixed, but they've consistently had answers. They are 9-2 in games started by Aaron Rodgers, and since week 1, they have one loss, and it was a game that was absolutely insane, and the offense played awesome. So I'll repeat it. The Packers, to me, in a week or two, when they start to get healthy, you're going to see, right? But don't get bogged down in that. Right now, today, this is the best team in football. Yes, they can be better with David Bakhtiari. Yes, they can be better with Jair Alexander. Yes, they can be better with Sedarius Smith. Right now, today, and they don't play this week, but right now, today, this is the best team in football. In life, we're all bound for different things. With beachbound.com vacations, you can be bound for adventure, bound for passion, bound for discovery, or bound for togetherness, bound for immersion, bound for rejuvenation, or maybe be bound for encountering the unexpected. Personally, when I'm at a beach resort, I'm bound to end up poolside, maybe creating my own taco flight, carnitas, asada, pastor maybe. Depends on how I'm feeling. As long as I've got a good view and a good drink in my hand, I'll be as happy as I can be. With beachbound.com, you can find the perfect beach vacation for you no matter what you're looking for. What are you bound for? Visit beachbound.com today. So I wanted to dig into the self-scouting part of this, just as a start. And we talked a lot about the strengths of this team. We've talked a lot about the weaknesses of this team. And I think those are pretty clear. I wanted to think about, okay, where can this team make some improvements on the margins? Where can they find these little advantages? Not where they're bad, because the run defense, play to play, still not great. Still not great. And 26th in EPA per play. And this is a situation where you kind of have to dig a little bit deeper, because the run game is something that they're kind of fine with. They're kind of fine with. Teams want to run. You want to run 4 or 5 yards. Cool. You're not getting over the top. And we saw that, even on 3rd and 2, if you want to convert that 3rd and 2, they're kind of content to let you. I want to see if they have some opportunities here, some counters, where maybe they say, okay, on 3rd and 2, maybe you play a little differently. Now, unfortunately, that leaves you susceptible over the top to all kinds of big plays. And we saw the double moves. If you're going to play all the quick game, Matt Stafford was trying to get the ball out because he didn't want to get hit because the Packers front was kicking that ass. Okay. Now all of a sudden you're Odell Beckham and you hit him with the double move and you're over the top and it's 6. Now you have to be able to protect in those situations. And when you've got Kenny Clark barreling down in your face and you've got Rashawn Gary flying off the edge past Andrew Whitworth and you've got Preston Smith affecting the game consistently, you are going to find it hard to push the ball down the field. But 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 3rd and short yardage, Can you come with a different approach? Now, 4th and 1, they were able to get that stop. Adrian Amos makes a killer play in the backfield, and you're in good shape. But they seem content a little too often on 3rd and less than 4 to say, sure, here. And they're not really saying that, right? That's not fair. They're not letting teams pick up first downs. They're just more worried about what's going on behind them, and rightfully so. I just wonder if there are opportunities there to be a little bit more, not just creative, but to say, okay, well, in order to get a stop in a big spot, does it warrant an opportunity to be a little bit more aggressive? To say, okay, we're going to send a run blitz or pressure or something like that. So that's just a little thing. But these are, this is a really good football team. Those are the kinds of things that you're looking for. A little thing. I mean, we're not talking about the punt return stuff. We know that that's a problem. We're not talking about the kicking game. We know that that's a problem. There's really no solution, at least to the kicking game part of this. Randall Cobb, put him back there. And then what does he do? Muff a punt. Okay. So the obvious ones and the obvious solutions, they're kind of gone. By this point in the season, it's not like they're going to miraculously transform into this other team that is terrific on special teams and makes every kick and, is going to allow 2 yards a carry. They're just not that team. So that stuff is not what we're really thinking about right now. And I want to dig more into it over the course of this week in our conversations with our guests as we move through this week. And then, of course, as we get into next week and start previewing the actual games. There is also, I think, more opportunities to get the tight end involved offensively. And I know Josiah DeGuara has been an up and down player, a mercurial player, even if his temperament is very even-keeled. The movement skills are there. The hands are there. The juice after the catch, they're there. Find ways to get him involved. Now, 3rd and 2, 5 minutes left in the first half. You've got Devontae Adams on a smash concept in the slot, and you've set it up so that he's gonna be getting down the field, and you have the opportunity to take that shot. Great. If Rodgers wanted to just throw the little stick route to Josiah DeGuara, he could have done that. First down. I'm not saying those opportunities are the ones that I want to see. But it's more, okay, can you run that tight end screen to DeGuara with some space? Can you execute that a little bit better? Can he be the outlet in some of these max protect plays where it's like, okay, Mercedes Lewis is this extra offensive tackle, but Josh Nijman's playing well enough. Billy Turner's playing well enough that maybe you don't need that. Now, that's all predicated on that being true. You need to have Billy Turner and Josh Nijman playing well enough to make that the case. And that has not necessarily been the case. But it was in this game. And so, again, this is just a little tweak. I'd like to see if there are ways to get him the ball in space a little bit more, because I think he can be a threat. Also offensively, I still would love to see more 21, more A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones on the field at the same time. And I think, they waited basically all year to run it last year. I think we're going to see it again in the playoffs. We're going to see it again in December and some of these need to have it games. But I like the idea of having Cobb out there now. So I think this is almost a non-complaint because it's not really a complaint. It's just I for personal reasons, curiosity mostly, I want to see it some more because I think it can be really, really good. Is Kevin King going to be given the chance to get his job back? I can't imagine he is, but let's just say, because he has more sway in that locker room than anyone outside that building realizes or understands that he does or should. I think this Joe Barry defense has done an awesome job coalescing. It has been that next man up mentality. I think Eric Stokes is going to be the right corner when Jair Alexander comes back and gets to be on the left side of the defense. The offense is right. You get it. And so Russell Douglas is going to be that extra boundary corner. Chandon Sullivan is still going to be in the slot, but I wouldn't mind if when they go to nickel, Jair goes inside and gets to play that star spot, especially in matchups against a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So there is some flexibility there. It is, as Mike Wall said on the show a couple weeks ago, a champagne problem. It's not even really a problem. It's a champagne problem. Like, okay, which champagne are we going to drink? Like, they're all champagnes and they're all like relatively close in quality, but we just got to pick which one. Like, if I pick this one, then I have to wait to drink this one. That's the sort of issue that they're facing. The depth here is really tremendous. And we just saw them play against a team that has the weapons theoretically and the quarterback theoretically and the play caller theoretically to take advantage of a secondary that doesn't have its best player, to take advantage of a pass rush that doesn't have its best player. And you see Adrian Amos making plays. You see Darnell Savage making plays. You see Russell Douglas making plays. Eric Stokes was, again, very good, not making the mental errors that we saw against Minnesota. I'd like to see them experiment a little bit more at the star. I'd like to see, because I just think, especially when Jair Alexander gets back, and I'm sorry that I'm doing this because I just said I just spent 10 minutes in the A block saying, stop doing this. But we're trying to figure out where they're going here. That when and if he's back, are there ways to get him more involved in the slot? Just because you want to get your three best guys out there. The same way Matt LaFleur handles the offensive line. Put your best five on the field. Get your best three corners on the field and let them go, figure it out, and make plays. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Bet Online. Bet Online has you covered all season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football season continues the march to the playoffs. Bet Online remains your number one spot for all your sports action this season. Head to the new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code Locked On to get that bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Las Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. So it's not going to be much of a shocker where I think this Packers team stacks up. That's sort of not the point of this. I saw the playoff standings because Washington won last night, which is hilarious. And they're in the playoffs. If the playoffs started today, Washington is in. So that means the Packers have played 4 NFC playoff teams. They are 4-0 against those teams. Now, Minnesota getting pushed out of there because they lost helps the record because they did just lose to Minnesota after all. But if you expand this to AFC playoff teams, they're 5-1 and 5-0 in games started by Aaron Rodgers. Not to make the cohort too small, but Jordan Love is a big difference than Aaron Rodgers. We know that. This is not, this is not funny business with the math here. No one else really has a track record like that, a resume like that. Now, you could say, okay, well, the Cardinals are winning games with Kyler Murray on the bench. That's true. Not exactly the most impressive slate of teams, but that's true. And especially with the way Carolina looked on Sunday. Oof. Ugh. Cam Newton. Ugly stuff. The team to be worried about is the same team that it was 6 months ago, 6 weeks ago, 8 months ago. Tampa Bay is the team. Now, Tampa Bay's pass defense is still a major problem. Their pass rush has not been anywhere near as good this season as it was last year. Shaq Barrett not performing at the same level. Vita Vea not performing at the same level. JPP not performing at the same level. And so that makes it even that much more difficult when you don't have Sean Murphy-Bunting playing the right position, when you have Carlton Davis out. And theoretically, those guys are coming back, but they haven't been back. Now, offensively, they've been awesome. And they just were a semi-truck rolling downhill on Sunday, and they still almost lost. It still took some crazy late game stuff to win against Carson Wentz. I think the Tampa defense is a bigger problem than anything that the Packers are dealing with. Interestingly, there are of the top 8 teams in offensive EPA per play, 5 of them are also in the top 8 of defensive EPA per play. It's the Cardinals, the Bills, the Packers, the Patriots, and I'm missing someone. Doesn't matter. The Packers are in that group. And I think that tells you pretty clearly that there is this tier of teams and then sort of everyone else fighting to get in that mix. The Packers already beat the Cardinals. And the Buccaneers, look, they're right there. And they're flying a little bit under the radar because of all these injuries, because of the losses that you just make you go, what is that? Guess what? They had those last year. And they still come playoff time because of the way that they're set up, because of the way that they're built, pass rush, quarterback, receivers, and secondary, by the way, but the secondary's been banged up. And offensive line, they're strong at all the premium positions. Their offensive line is theoretically going to be healthier than Green Bay's in the playoffs. Now, is there secondary? Is there pass rush? Are there star players going to play as well? These are the things that Green Bay is up against. That's why to get Randall Cobb, who can be a big game producer like he was in this game, short plays, turn them into something. To get AJ Dillon, hammer. If they're gonna kill wide zone, you have to be able to run counter. You have to be able to run power. You have to have this other element in your run game. They have it now with AJ Dillon. And you have to have answers defensively. You have to be able to have a good plan. And Joe Barry, in these big games, they haven't lost a game this year because the defense had a bad plan. Now, they played poorly. They played really bad against the Saints. Just played really bad. I guess that would be the one game where you said they had a bad plan. After that, they had a great plan against Minnesota. Kirk Cousins just made a bunch of crazy throws under pressure that he's not going to make. And by the way, this is the same guy who didn't know which butt to cozy under on 4th down and cost his team a potential win. I mean, a week later. So the football gods must be crazy. And then you have the Jordan Love game. And they held Patrick Mahomes in check. It looks a little less impressive that they held Russell Wilson in check. It turns out he's really good at holding himself in check. Like the Jim Carrey line from Liar Liar, I hold myself in contempt. Why should you be any different? That said, this Packers team, they're hitting on the cylinders on all of them. I don't know if they've got 8. I don't know how many they've got, but they've got them all going right now. And hopefully they're able to get healthier over the bye week. But right now, this is the best team in the league. And the team that they least want to see is also finding that same sort of stride. I frankly hope we're on a collision course for Packers Bucks again. I do. And I think the Packers want that too. They want a shot at redemption. And so maybe we will get it here now it's just a couple more weeks. Subscribe to Locked On Packers on YouTube. Hit us up there. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers. Follow me on Twitter. Subscribe to The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. And anytime you want to hit us up on the Locked On Packers fan hotline, you can do that 920-341-3775 to stay Locked On Packers.